All right, well, welcome to Module 5, where we'll be working with tables today. To give me some more space. All right, so we're going to go to content, and we are going down to our textbook start files for Module 5. And we're going to download the modular exercise as we've done in the past. All right, so in this chapter, we're going to look at how to create and format tables, how to delete or add information, how to store using formulas, etc. So here we've got a bunch of data. We're going to enable editing. Let me zoom in so you can see things a little bit better. And we're going to start with just creating a general table and formatting it. So the first thing we want to do is, while we're on A1, let's go to Insert. And you'll see an option at the far left-hand side is a table button. So let's click on the table button. Excel, as intuitive as it is, it automatically identifies, hey, it looks like you want over to column H and all the way down to row 65. So if we scroll down, you can see that's our last row, and that is correct. And then an option that sometimes your tables have headers, meaning the title of what each of those columns are. And in this case, we do have headers, so we want to leave that check mark on. Sometimes you'll have a table without it. You'll want to make sure you turn that off. I'll click OK, and then it applies a default table style. Now that it's been assigned a table, you'll see a new item on your menu at the top called Table Design, and a bunch of new options, which we will go through a number of them today. Over on the Table Styles section, you can see some of the built-in styles, typically with the header row a little darker color than the table, different color themes, etc. And so you could pick one, hover over them, see what they look like, find one that you like. You can scroll down or hit the More button here on the right-hand side of Table Styles. So let's hit More. And we want to make this a green table style light 14 table style. I think that's this one. Green table style light 14. We'll apply that. So now we've got a dark green header and then basically just green lines between each of the rows. Let's put our cursor back on A1. All right, so then as far as clicking and moving and identifying columns, it works just like any other set of columns. What you want to do is take your pointer up into the column heading for column A, and you'll see how it changes to a down arrow. Okay, like that, down arrow. So let's click there, and that highlights the entire column A. And actually click and hold will highlight A and B. Then we'll click the Control button on the keyboard to select another set of columns, and we'll click on the F, G, and H. So now we've highlighted A, B, F, G, and H. So that's left click, let go on B, Control, F, G, H. Let's go to the Home tab. We're going to apply some formatting, and we want to change the column width to be 1557. So there's a few different ways we can do it. You can go Format Column Width. You could right click and hit Column Width. We're going to hit Column Width here and type 15.57. And we'll click OK. So now all 5 of those columns are the same width. Let's go to column D. And just like you've done before, you can also auto fit these by double clicking between the columns like we did back in, I think it was module 1. But in this case, we want to assign specific columns. So we're going to highlight D and E. And we want those to be 9.43. 9.43. Okay. And then that's the first few series. So we've got a nice looking table, a bunch of consistent widths, etc. for the different columns. Before we go any further, you'll see that because it's a table, we have these little drop down arrows. Those are called filter list arrows. So if you click them, we're going to do some of these functions later. You can sort and filter out based on specific results. And it's intuitive. So for example, this one believes it's numbers. So it gives you number formulas. This one here, text. So it gives you text options. This one here, it recognizes them as date, etc. Okay, so we'll go through some of those shortly. All right, so let's assume that we have more data to enter. So let's go all the way down to the bottom to A66. And we're going to type some new info, 9408 in tab, and you'll see that Excel automatically adds that row because it's consecutive to the table. Before I go any further, if you go to the far right, you can actually identify what should be included in the table area or not, just by left clicking and dragging. So you can always override that. So we've got 32231. We've got creative. We've got the date. It says 12/23/2021. I don't know why there's different dates, but just following the book. Consultant 8125, and yes. Okay, let's go. So we've added our content. What I would do is go to this row above, format painter. It's not working. What I'm guessing is it looks like it's month, day, year. So let's go 12/23/21. Let's see if this will fix it. This happens often, especially with dates. Okay, so it should be 2021-12. There we go. So now sometimes you have to kind of do that in Excel. You have to look at what's the format or the structure of that content, year, month, day. So we've entered year, month, day. All right, so let's go up to column I in cell 1. We're going to add a column. So similarly, like we added a row, we're going to start posting or typing days posted. Enter, and you'll see that the column automatically adds. And we want to change the column width to 10, so we can click and drag, or you can right click and your column width, whatever you decide. See if I can do this. Nope. So we're going to go 10. And that's I, days posted. Let's go to A3. And just go to the inside left edge of cell A3. You'll be able to click there, and you'll see that your mouse turns to a right black arrow pointing right. If you click once, you'll see that it highlights the table row contents only. It doesn't extend outside the table. Say you wanted to delete this item, we can go up to the delete button and delete the table contents that way. Let's go to Table Tools, Design tab. Sometimes you'll enter, a bunch of information, and you might have duplicate information. So there's a way to actually look for duplicates rather than manually sorting and seeking. So there's a button up here under the table design saying remove duplicates. If we click that, it'll say, okay, it's highlighting the whole table, but what should not be duplicated? And in this case, we want my headers turned on. Yes, we want to unselect all, and we're going only by account number. So there should only be one of each account number, but you might have multiple employer IDs, etc. So click OK. And it said there was one duplicate value, 63 items remain. All right, so filtering. So filtering works the same way, whether it's date, text, numbers, etc. All very similar. So let's go to the filled date column. Okay, so we're going to go to the filled date list arrow at the bottom here and say we want to sort oldest to newest. So we'll click that, and it assumes it keeps all the rows together, so it does not lose the relationship between, say, this account number, this employer ID, etc. Let's go to the commission column. Just click in any cell in the commission column. Another way to sort is under the editing group. Home tab, editing group, sort and filter, and we can go largest to smallest. So again, you can either use the function through the home menu by having your active cell in that specific column, or you could click the drop down and pick the sort that way. Again, a couple of different ways to sort it. Now, what if you wanted to sort based on more than one parameter? Because you'll see that we sorted by date, then we sorted by commission, but we didn't sort by multiple components. So let's go up to the home, sort and filter. We'll click the drop down. Maybe, here we go, custom sort. And this is where you can have an advanced sort with multiple layers. So if you've used this before, great. If you haven't, here we go. So let's first of all sort by division. And we want to sort on the cell value, yes. And we want to click sort from A to Z, not Z to A. And then the second sort is where if a division is the same, what's the next option? So now we want to sort by commission value. And the smallest to the largest is correct. And you could do this for multiple layers up to as many columns. Click OK. So now it puts all the divisions together and the commissions from smallest to largest within each division. Can be very helpful. All right, let's go over to I2. So I2 is where we want to add a formula in a table. So while we're in I2, we'll hit the equal sign just like we normally do. But because we want to use a table column piece of information, we use a square bracket. The square bracket says, okay, this is a structured reference, and we want to tell it to use something from the table. So in this case, you'll see Excel pull up all of the structured references, which are the column titles. So in this case, we want to select fill date. We'll double click on that. Square bracket to close that piece. Okay. And we want to subtract something else from the table, square bracket, and we want to double click the posting date and square bracket, close, and then we will click enter. And what did I do? Okay, that does not work. I apologize. That's how it's supposed to work. Oh, I clicked the wrong one. Never mind. Equals square bracket, fill date, square bracket minus, square bracket, posting date. I hit position type instead. There we go. So now we've got the wrong format though. Okay, so these should all be numbers. So in this case, we can format those as numbers. We'll get rid of the decimals. Okay. We get the fill date minus the posting date. Let's go to the Table Tools Design tab. And for example, you'll see a bunch of table style options. What if you want, the first column bolded? You can do that. The last column bolded. Do you want banded columns so they're a little thicker? Do you want banded rows, with the thicker lines? Do you want a total row? So if we ever ask you to add a total row to a table, you want to use this table design total row. Don't just go and add the word total to the bottom. So by doing so, it builds it in as part of the table, formats it as part of the table, and then it gives you other functions. You'll see drop downs. Okay. So let's go, for example, over to I-65. So over here on the days posted section, and we want the average number of days posted. So we can click the drop down and change that to average. It'll automatically calculate the 22. Let's go to G65, so our commission column, and what we want to know the total of all commissions paid. And let's go over to A65. We don't want the word total over here, so we'll hit the delete button. And we'll go over to F65, and in here we want to go total commissions. Okay. And we'll click over on H65 and we'll type average days. And we're just going to auto fit column F a little bit because it cuts off commissions a little bit. So let's go up to F and we'll double click on that and you'll see it just moves just a little bit. Okay. And so sorry, I just realized one other thing. It wanted the average days with one decimal, so we'll increase that. 21.5 is what it shows at this time. All right, so now what if we want to filter out this table? So we've got a whole bunch of data, but maybe we only want certain information. So we're going to scroll back to the top. We're going to go to division, click this little filter button. And in this case, we want to turn off select all and say we just want creative. So you can maybe you want creative and technical. In this case, I just want creative. And we'll click OK. Now we've shortened that. You'll see our total rows update for what rows are displayed. Let's go back to division. Let's clear the filter. And we've got everything back. Let's go to the commission filter, same thing. Let's go, maybe we want number filters, and maybe we want the top 10. So let's click top 10. So top 10 items, and you know what? We only want the top 5. So the 5 highest commission number of items, or you can do the top 5% of all items. So if there's 100 items, it'll give you 5. If there's 50 items, it'll give you 3. I believe it always rounds up. And we'll click 5 items is correct. We'll click OK. So our 5 highest items are from these 5 divisions. And you can see our numbers range between 19,000 and almost 21,000. Let's go back to the home menu, back to sort and filter. So say you have multiple sorted filters, you can clear them all this way. Hit clear, and now we've got everybody back. Let's go to the filled date filter button. And let's go to the date filters. So say we want only certain dates. We're going to go to custom filter. And we want any date, any item that is equal or after 4/1/21. So equal or after. This is 4/1/2021. And it is before or equal to. Before or equal to 6/30/2021. And we'll click OK. And I wondered if that format would not be liked. Okie dokie, let's fix this. Let's go back to custom filter. So we need to change this to be 2021-04-01. I wondered about that. 06. Book was written in a different format. There we go. So now we've got all of our data between April 1st and June 30th. Again, let's go back to filled date. If you could also, let's clear that filter. Say you want filled date from anything in April 2021. So that's another way to do it. Okay. All right, so let's look up a value from the table. So Vlookup, I believe we do it again in a later chapter, but this is a function I use quite often. So when you have different tables and you want to pull up matching information, Vlookup looks vertically, HLOOKUPs looks horizontally, and then lately there's one now called XLOOKUP. So it ignores vertical or horizontal, and it's dynamic. We don't go into the details here, but we could if you desire. So let's go, first of all, let's go to the formulas tab. Let's go to the name manager button. So name manager, you'll see that it's given a name called table 1 to the entire list of information here. So we can use that reference table 1 in our formulas. So let's close and we'll go back up. And we're going to zoom out a little bit just so I can see L2. And we're going to go to L2 and we're going to say we want to look up 2850 in a minute. So 2850 is our account that we're going to look up. And then in L3, which is where I am right now, we want to use the function Vlookup. So equals Vlookup. Oops, Vlookup. There it is. So what Vlookup does in open function arguments is it says, what value am I going to find? What table am I going to look at? When I find it, what column do you want me to return? Because it's vertical, you want to give a column. If it's horizontal, it'll ask for a row. And then the last part says, does it have to be an exact match or the closest? So in this case, our lookup value, we want to be L2. So we'll click on L2. Our table array, we can type table 1. You can see Excel recognizes that it's all this data contained within table 1. And our column index is 3. How this counts is if table 1 is going from A to I, the first column is number 1, 2, and 3. So what it's going to do is look in the account column, the very first column for a match. It'll look down here for 2850, which you can see is right here. And it'll return column 3. So column 1, column 2, column 3. So it should give us the word creative. In the range lookup, I would say get used to always putting the word false in there. Otherwise, it assumes this is in numerical order. So as soon as it gets the first number that exceeds it, it stops and puts whatever's in that third column. So you want false because you want an exact match. So we'll click OK, and you can see it says creative. Let's go up to L2. Let's type 6234. We're going to change our number. And it says technical. So let's just scroll down to verify. So 6234, here we go, technical. You can see how it changes and finds the exact match. So control home, we'll go back to A1. All right, so next is we want to summarize some table data. So we've got our little chart down here. So let's go down to, we've got K7 and 8. So we're looking for the division technical, and we want to look at the total commissions and the number of placements. This is where we're using database functions. So let's go to K11. First of all, we want total commissions where the division is technical. So let's go equals dsum. dsum. Let's pull up our function arguments so you can see how it builds. And first of all, it says, what is the database? So while you're there, let's go over to our table. You'll see how the mouse will turn to a 45-degree angle pointing down to the right. Let's click once. That's the table. Let's click twice. That includes the table all, including the header. So we want 2 clicks in that top left corner. So it should say table 1, square bracket, pound, all. Let's go to the field box. And we want to click on commission. So that's what we want to include. Okay, so that'll be the table 1, pound headers, comma, commissions. So let's total up the commission. And then we want to find anything in the table where the criteria, click on criteria, matches K7 and 8. So where the division is technical. Click OK. And it brings in our total of 200,255 at this point. We want to format that to be nicer, so we're going to format that as a counting number and no decimals. Now we've got a $sign. Let's go down to K13. So now we want to do a count. So let's go dcount A. Dcount A, let's pull up the function arguments. It's looking for any non-blank cells in our record. So it's going to find where it matches what the criteria we enter. And as long as the contents of the cell are not blank, it'll count it. So it's going to just do a physical count. So again, we're going to go to the database, top left, 1 click, 2 clicks to get the table all. And then we're going to click, let's see, we're in the field. We're going to C1. So we're just going to count where the divisions match, where they're non-blank, and where the criteria field division is technical. And we'll click OK. So now we've got 18. All right, so let's just show how this works. Let's go up where it says technical here in cell K8. We're going to type office support. Enter. And you can see how it changes to be 112, 230, and 13. So nice, useful function. I would say one other option you could do is, we'll teach this in a later chapter, is data validation we'll teach later, is that you want this office support to be one of the divisions. You can make it so it's a drop down. Again, we'll teach that in a later chapter. For those that know what I'm talking about, you're probably saying, why don't we? So I just want to hint that that is coming later. All right, actually, that's part of the next page. I knew it was coming soon. So let's go, we're on page 516 of the textbook. Let's go to the top edge of the division column. Okay, so we're at the top edge, and we want to select that data. So just a single click. And now we want under data validation. And we want to make it a list. So it has to be specific items. And we're going to actually type in what they are. We're going to type in creative, finance, and accounting. I hit the wrong button. accounting, comma, office support, comma, technical. Okay, so the commas separate the options. What I would say is typically in my real life, I would add a tab with all the different drop-down options and then just link this source right here. So you collapse this and highlight the source. You'll have a range of cells. I'll show that in future weeks. Let's go OK. And now you can see that the cell has a little drop down. So it gives us the 4 main options. So now we want to make sure that all of these items match. Let's go down. What does it want us to do? So we're going to click the Home tab on the ribbon. Any cell in the last row. So Home tab on the ribbon. And we're going to go Insert. Now we've got a new row. And we're going to type over in Division. We're going to type Medical and Tab, and you'll see that it doesn't match. Okay. Let's click the drop down then, and we'll click Creative. So it forces us to match. I will say if you go back to data validation, you could say, must it match? So input message. You can have errors alert. Does it stop it or does it just give you a warning? So if you did this as a warning, it would say, hey, this doesn't match. Are you sure? And then you can still enter it. Okay. Just to give you ideas, you might have to do that for Sam. All right, so let's go back to home. We're going to hit delete to delete the row we just entered. And that's basically it. Now it's just print preview. So let's Control P. You can see what it looks like, etc. Okay, the rest we've done in other weeks. So I'm gonna skip that. Actually, I'll just show you Control P. Let's go. Say I want to fit the entire sheet on one row, or maybe you want to fit all the columns on one sheet, or all the rows on one sheet. Okay, so just playing with it. I'd say most of the time, if I have a small chart, I would just fit the entire sheet on one page. Okay, especially if you're just going to PDF, they can always zoom in. And that's it for this week.